Hey everybody, it's Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. We're going to give some love to the rhythm section today. I've got an excellent bass player, just overall smart musician with Jerry Watts out of LA, he's bass player. Couple of quick announcements. I want to thank our mutual friend Mike Miller, who's a hell of a guitarist. And if you haven't listened to Mike's interview, I'd really encourage you to go listen to that, listen to his playing. But thank you, Mike, for connecting Jerry and I. And also make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe and subscribe to the audio and the YouTube channel of the show. A little bit about Jerry. And actually his resume is like much deeper than I can ever get into in a short intro. But grew up in New Jersey. He's a self-taught musician who had his first paying gig at the age of 13. His band needed a bass player, and he took on the job. And from there, he fell in love with the bass and doesn't remember not working after that point. Studied at William Patterson University for 2 years. I've had a lot of guys that went there, man, believe it or not. Good music school.
It's fantastic.
He took a leap of faith and moved to LA and attended Cal State University, Northridge, where he switched to acoustic bass and was part of the jazz band. Since 2005, he's actually been the department chairman of the bass department chairman at Los Angeles College of Music. He's toured or recorded with Andy Summers, Andy Timmons, Sheryl Crow, Billy Idol, Dave Stewart, Don Grusin, Dr. John, Airto Moreira, and Flora Purim. Ginger Baker, Herbie Hancock, Keith Emerson. Dude, this is like the elite A-list of the elite. You know, this is the one percenters here, man. Keith Emerson, Sergio Mendes, Stephen Bishop, Tony Williams, Andrae Crouch, Billy Childs, Bobby Caldwell, Dr. John, Jefferson Starship, Rhiannon, Simon Phillips, along with Steve Vai and Paul Gilbert. That's not a bad combo there. Toshi Yanagi, who was on the show, and he's performed on major TV and film works like America's Funniest Videos, Vegas, The Larry Sanders Show, Mississippi Masala, and others. And he's also played with Josh Daversa for the last 13 years, and they have a unique band that they do. It's kind of like big band, and well, I'll let Jerry talk about it later, but they won 3 Grammys. They were nominated for 3 in 2017, and they won 3 in 2019, so congratulations on that, my man. And he is also involved with an improv group with Dan Rosenboom, who owns the Orenda label. And he'll probably talk about that later as well. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I so much appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Craig. I'm really excited to be here. I'm honored you asked me to come on the show.
Thank you, man. I feel like, should we mention the coronavirus? I feel like, do we have an obligatory like coronavirus comment, or I don't even know what's normal anymore and not normal.
Oh, this is normal.
Yeah, it's just very weird. Man, so how did you started gigging at 13. How did you first get started in the music business? Let's call it that. And what was your like first break maybe?
Wow. Yeah. I just was, gigging as a kid basically. And I was in a million bands. I mean, the truth is like you mentioned, yeah, I joined a band and we needed a bass player, and the other guy who was playing guitar was better than me. So, it's the age-old story.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
When I was in high school, my dad had a Volkswagen van. Mm-hmm. And so I was the guy to get if you wanted to move the band gear around.
Oh,
so
right on.
A ton of bands, just on kind of, I guess the bass playing caught up eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As far as breaks, yeah, I was always kind of gigging through that, but I would say the first kind of major label record I did was with a guy named Eddie Jobson.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me, who incredible keyboard player and violinist, and it's a progressive rock record on Capitol Records. And I flew from LA. By that point I was living in LA, and I flew out to New York and did the record, and it's pretty exciting.
Who was on guitar on that record, if you remember?
Nicky Morrock. Nick Morrock and Michael Cuneo, who's my buddy from LA.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. And the drummer, we were connected through a drummer named Michael Barsamonte, and great record.
Yeah,
Eddie's singing. I don't know so much about that, but it's a very cool record. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. You moved to LA like pretty young. I mean, I gave you a lot of credit. You just I'm assuming you had no contacts there, and you just
no.
Yeah. What prompted you to do that? And like, how did you get work once you settled in?
Well, growing up, I started out on the East Coast, right? My whole family's from New York, and I'm from Teaneck, New Jersey,
Right
right?
on.
What exit? What exit, pal? and but we wound up moving around the country a lot. So we moved. At one point, I went to 4 different high schools in
Oh
one
my
year.
God.
Yeah, yeah, and wound up. We lived in California, but in Florida as well,
Yeah.
and wound up back on the East Coast. And so, after a couple of years of William Patterson and just gigging in North Jersey and some New York stuff, I just knew I wanted to go back to California and just kind of came out.
That's That took some big ball. I mean, I guess when you're younger, you don't think of it like that, but in
Right.
retrospect, you look and you say, "Hey, man, that's a risk."
Faith, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
or
or nothing to lose.
youthful stupidity. I don't know.
No, seriously. Yeah, it's like I think when you're younger, you're more apt to make those decisions because you have less to lose.
Yeah.
You know. How'd you first get work once you got to LA?
Well, when I got here, I was I started going to Cal State Northridge to kind of finish up the schooling piece, which was interesting because I was self-taught, so I don't know what the big drive there was for that, but I just started meeting musicians and doing local gigs, just kind of jobbing kind of gigs,
Yeah.
and just began to meet guys, showing up a lot. So always hanging, always, being in contact with folks in the ways that we did it in those days, which was the phone and showing up to someone's gig and jamming and just making yourself available.
Yeah. Was any of those contacts that you met early on turn out to be influential or helpful to your career subsequent?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I met the drummer Michael Barsamanto, and he had played. I'm really interested. I played a fair amount of jazz over the years, and he had played in San Francisco with Dave Liebman. He was involved with Dave for a long time. So we got together, and he shared a lot of that kind of insight, and we played a lot together, and at the same time, we had a love of all kinds of other music, and he connected me with that first record with Eddie Jobson. So there's just one example. There's tons of examples, but yeah.
That's cool. Really cool.
Yeah, and I think just honestly, I'm just love good music. So I think that kind of attitude, as opposed to coming from a more opinionated place, particularly when you're young. I don't kind of get that so much. Big world, a lot of music to play, and you have to keep an open mind, open hands. I mean, you can't receive if your hands are closed.
Right.
Right. Sorry for the lame analogy, but there you have it.
That's a favorite quote of mine, like a Gandhi quote. He said, "You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist."
There you go.
Yeah, man. So it's the same what you're saying. I agree with you 100%, man. But most of the more successful musicians I've spoken to all feel that way. They're not like, which was really enlightening to me when I first came into this, because I thought somebody played country because they like country. And it turns out most of the really successful people, they like everything. Maybe they got a country gig or a jazz gig or a prog gig, but they really are kind of like you, very open-minded. They love all good music, which is really healthy, of course.
Yeah, those are the people I like to be around.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you. I'm going to mention some of the artists that you've worked with, Jerry, and talk about maybe how you got the gig and any kind of cool or interesting story about working with them. Let's start with a guy who's I'm just totally, I think he's such a wonderful guitarist, and Andy Summers. But I saw the movie. Did you see the movie he made? The movie they made about him and his involvement with the police?
No, someone just was telling me about that. I have yet to see it.
I think it's on Prime or Netflix. I think Prime. Man, what a great movie. I mean, he just comes across as like just a regular guy with, faults and issues, just like all of us, and he just it was just a really nice, movie. But how'd you hook up with Andy, and what would you do with him?
I met him through, through a drummer named Michael Baker, who was playing with Zawinul Syndicate at the time. And I don't know how he met Andy. Anyway, he invited me over for a jam, and we had this crazy trio for a while. And Michael went off to do a big pop gig, and I was left there with Andy, and I probably was associated with him for 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so a bunch of records, and we had a parade of amazing drummers that went through through the camp. At one point, we started a band, so we were writing together regularly.
Mm.
That didn't quite pan out, but wound up on a couple of his, several of his solo records, and really fun, and a really fun cast of characters. Yeah, like Ginger Baker, for example. Really...
So it was. What was that like, man? Let's put the brakes on. Tell me.
Yeah, oh my God, what a character.
Was he that insane?
Yeah.
Like I watched. Sorry, I watched the movie, and he seemed pretty insane. Was he like that in real life?
He was actually really cool. We spent about a week together tracking out here in LA, and he was really cool with me. I'll just say. You know, I had heard that he could be difficult and a little uneven.
That's very politically correct.
I really experienced that. And he, you know, it was odd. His hi-hat is a funny thing, but we were sitting pretty close together while we were tracking this whole week, and his hi-hat was really high. He played it kind of like that, you know, looked a little funny, but he played some of the deepest, just rock pocket of ever. It was crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Oh, he's an amazing drummer. I mean, his talent is off the charts, man. That's wild.
Yeah.
Billy Idol.
Oh yeah. That was just I just did a couple days of tracking with him for a record that I don't know.
Oh, that was just studio stuff. Was Steve Stevens?
Yeah, just studio stuff. You know, I had met through a drummer, a lot of drummers in my story, but through drummer Abraham Laboriel Jr.
Oh, sure,
I met Dave Stewart, who was famous for being you know, in the Eurythmics, right? And so anyway, so we did a couple different projects together and did this Billy Idol stuff. And I can't remember if Abe played drums on that or Kirk Biscara. Biscara did. I don't recall. But anyway, we just spent, you know, a couple days tracking.
Very cool. Was Steve Stevens on that?
No story.
No story. Was Steve Stevens on that? No. Interesting.
No, it was just kind of bass and drums and whatever. It was maybe a temp guitar or something.
Okay.
I don't even recall.
You had mentioned Dave Stewart. Did you do any work with Dave?
Yeah, I played on a record of his called Sli-Fi, and yeah, and he also produced. What else did we do? The Wilsons. So there, you know, I remember this pop group Wilson Phillips.
Phillips, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So they're the daughters of Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Carney Phillips and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and Carney
Wilson. Yeah,
Carney Wilson, and I can't recall her sister's name at the moment. That's not good, right? Anyway,
something Phillips.
yeah. There you go. And so we did some tracks for that record that Dave produced, and cool. really fun to hang with him. You know, if you know about the beginning of the MTV era and his kind of presence there, it's cool to meet him and be around him.
That's nice, man. Herbie Hancock. What'd you do, Herbie?
Oh, again, yeah, it's kind of a misnomer, right? In that, you know, it's no, I didn't tour with Herbie, but we did. I just did some tracking with him. So I for probably about 20 years I was involved with a Brazilian composer named Dori Caymmi, who's one of the all-time greats. And we did a record. I did a bunch of records with him, and Herbie came in and we spent the day with him tracking down at Jackson Brown's studio. Maybe, I don't know if he still has it, down in Santa Monica. And yeah, it was just sublime.
Yeah, what was it?
You know,
I mean, you're a big jazz fan.
Yeah. He's just super, you know, everything you would imagine. And also when my career started, I was playing with an Indian violinist named El Subramaniam. Mm-hmm. And he anyway, he also just in the studio Herbie came by and tracked a solo with us, just again for a day.
Yeah.
But really awesome experience.
When you were doing the work with him with the Brazilian artist, did you say like, Herbie, we played together back in remember that?
Yeah, no, that doesn't really work. Some people have a gift for that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could probably say 1,000 people could probably say that about.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, Herbie Hancock. There's no way statistically.
Shut up and play your bass kind of
thing. Right. Keith Emerson.
Oh yeah. Very sad ending there. I love that guy. He, I had done that Eddie Jobson record, which is kind of proggy, and I got called by a producer to come in and record with him, which was super random, but because of I had some bona fides from playing on that Eddie Jobson record.
Yeah.
And spent a week with him recording. It was just really fun, really amazing.
When was
really
how long
nice
ago?
guy, really cool guy. What's that?
How long ago was that?
Oh, a long time ago. I'm gonna date this. End of the '80s. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a long time ago.
And you did a project with Simon Phillips with Vi and Paul Gilbert. That's not too much talent on that. What was that? How did that come about? What was that project?
Yeah, I had been referred to Simon by I think maybe by Alphonso Johnson. I don't remember, but I wound up being in Simon's band for a year.
Protocol?
And, yeah.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a great live record called Out of the Blue that we did from a European tour, like a European tour, end of the '90s kind of thing, as I recall. And we went to you can find this on YouTube, by the way. It's the Hoshino 90th anniversary concert. So Hoshino is the company that owns Tama and Ibanez and half of the world probably.
Right.
And we went there, and so we performed, and then we served as the bands for Steve, and then also for Paul. And in our band was Andy Timmons,
right?
Who
I had him on the show, monster player. Yeah.
Just yeah, a guy can kind of do anything. Yeah, he's maybe my favorite.
Really?
Guitar player in that zone. Yeah.
Well, he's in a lot of zones. That's the thing. He's pretty.
Yeah.
He's a pretty talented guy.
Yeah, pretty amazing dude.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to mess her name up right. Mylene Farmer.
Yeah, Mylene. Yeah, but that's what it looks like. It looks like Mylene Farmer to us.
Yeah. Mylene Farmer. I know she's. What's that?
Super.
Yeah. She's one of the most successful recording artists in history in France. I read something in doing research that something important happened when you were on stage with her that impacted you.
Yeah. Well, she's kind of like a Madonna, and now we would say probably like a Lady Gaga kind of a figure. Maybe a little rockier, a little more rock. And I did this. It's a long time ago now, but I toured with her twice with this incredible band with Brian Ray. Do you know Brian Ray?
The guitar player.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And Abe Laboriel Jr.
That's a pretty good. It's a pretty stellar unit.
Phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. So she did major rock tours that she did. So we're all over France and Switzerland and Belgium. We went to Russia. It was really something. And anyway, I think on the first tour there was like this bout that came out at the end of the stage, almost like that she would walk out, that went over the audience, like this big railing. She would walk out, we did an encore, and the crew had already started to take it down. So she like loosen it up, and she went out. And this thing went out, I don't know how many feet, pretty far over the audience, and the thing collapsed, and she went down.
Oh my God!
So as we're standing on stage, suddenly you just watch the artist just disappear from sight. And we thought, I thought she was done for. And so fortunately, she broke her wrist, and that was it. But it
Holy
put a stop.
smokes.
Yeah, so we were in the middle of a tour, and it stopped the tour. And we didn't come back. We came back maybe in June or something like that. We didn't come back till the fall to complete it.
Wow.
Pretty rough, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Pretty scary moment.
Anyone else that you'd like to talk about where you had a good experience? Please feel free.
Oh yeah, sure. So living here sometimes it's just that it's not, there can be very long associations, and also very very brief. I played with Dr. John for a day and got to rehearse with him for a couple of days, and that was just so fun. To kind of feel that New Orleans thing. It was just amazing, just absolutely amazing. I spent a lot of time with a guy named Tommy Walker, who's one of probably the most prolific songwriters and artists in the contemporary Christian scene, and that was really pretty remarkable experience. And I did just things like I was part of Andrae Crouch's church here in LA for about half a year, and I was in that band, and that was kind of a deep dive into the gospel world there, and quite an honor to get invited to the party, I guess.
Yeah, that's really cool. Who is the guitar player when you play with Dr. John? Just curious.
No idea.
Okay, because I've had a bunch of guys on the show that have played with him, and they all kind of like you did, stopped and said, well, let me tell you one story that was really, because they just love the guy's vibe.
Oozing music. I just dug listening to him talk. It was,
I get that accent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. Very cool. Anything going on now that you're excited about, musically or otherwise?
Sure. Well, yeah.
Pre-coronavirus.
Yeah.
Getting out of the house is what you're excited about now.
Before 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Things are amazing. Sure. So just to correct you, you mentioned I play with John Daversa, not Josh, but John Daversa.
Oh, sorry, man.
And I've been doing that. It's all good. I've been doing that for the last kind of 12, 13 years. And so, that's ongoing. And as you mentioned, we won 3 Grammys last year. It was pretty exciting, pretty gratifying, because it's not maybe the way that I think about it. It's a grassroots experience. So everyone that's involved just is in it because the music is a badass and because he's an amazing guy, and they're all in for the purest of reasons. So it makes it it made it particularly sweet, I guess,
nice,
to see someone get recognized, because I've been investing in that kind of thing, like original creative projects my entire life. The tons of projects that you hope will get noticed, and for a whole host of reasons that everybody already knows about, they don't get traction or whatever. So that's been really exciting to see that bear fruit. And he's got an incredible group of musicians around him, and particularly there's a drummer, Gene Coy, also sometimes Chris Wabich, and then a guitar player that you may know, Zane Carney. Do you know Zane?
I had Zane on my show ages ago. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's So it's super, it's just anything goes kind of.
I didn't know he was into that stuff. I thought he was more of a pop guy.
That guy is super elastic.
I didn't realize
musical thinking. Yeah. We did a record that I'm hoping will come out. Gene and Zane and I did a record also with Katisse Buckingham, and I think it's going to come out, I think, pretty soon. Now that in fact, I was thinking this morning that I need to message Zane and say, hey, just get this thing out there, because it's really fun. Really,
awesome.
Really fun. Yeah.
Is there a name of that? What's it go under?
I don't know what he's going to call you. I'll let you know.
Yeah, man.
And then the other thing. So just more recently, I was out most of February with Dan Rosenboom. So he's an incredible trumpet player who has his own label called Orenda here in LA, and it's like it's like avant-garde noise, indie, weird. Yeah, it's cool, but probably 30 artists, and he's a complete virtuoso. And we did this huge double record. We had 3 different rhythm sections, so it was myself and Gary Novak, drummer, and then Tim Lefebvre and Zach Danziger and Vinnie Colaiuta and Jimmy Johnson, and produced by Jeff Babco. And I'm really proud to be on that. Really excited about it, and it's just super, metal, jazz, open, free space. I don't even know what it is, but it's fun, really fun.
I think the really guys that play that are really passionate, because it is, as far as, no one makes those records thinking, oh man, my God, we're going to make a shit ton of money on this.
Right.
I mean, you're lucky if you like get your costs back on stuff like that. And it's like, I think everybody I've met with who's into that is just super passionate about the music, which is really nice.
And, and he did it, Craig, he did it right. It's beautifully mixed, recorded, mixed, and mastered, and recorded, released in Europe by this label Gearbox.
Mm-hmm.
Really just first rate. So yeah, I'm really pleased to be with him. Yeah.
Is it out yet, the record, or it's coming out?
Yeah.
What's the name of the record?
It's called Absurd in the Anthropocene.
Absurd in the yeah, man. I don't want to mess up. I want to tell people what it is so they can check it out. Dan Rosenboom.
You can see this. Oh, that's backwards.
Okay, absurd. No, it's perfect. Absurd
in the Anthropocene.
Anthropocene. Yeah. ANTHROPOCENE by Dan Rosenboom.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. People.
Yeah. It's awesome, and that which is Anthropocene is the era or the epoch that we're living in. So it's
is that what it is? I was wondering that.
Yeah. He's a deep guy and a real thinker.
You wonder, the only time I studied eras, I remember that was like when dinosaurs, the Mesozoic era.
Exactly.
You wonder at some point in time, are they going to be referring to us as, we studied dinosaurs. Remember back in the Anthropocene?
Yeah.
We'll be such further along.
Life wiped the entire population.
Yeah, man. That was when these guys couldn't even stand up little coronavirus. Yeah. What would you knee-jerk reaction? Top 3 musical experiences you've had?
Oh.
I know it's a really tough question.
Yeah,
and let me issue your disclaimer. For everybody who's not mentioned, doesn't mean you were not a great musical experience. I'm just asking for knee-jerk, immediate, like right now, because later I could ask you the same question and get a different.
I love playing with John, Daversa, Zane, and Gene. That chemistry is super special. It's too hard to narrow down. So just drummers, just freedom I love, but the pocket, like with Toshi Yanagi last year, I played a bit with Steve Ferroni. Just beautiful. And whenever I only occasionally encounter Vinnie Colaiuta, that's lovely. I started out my career playing. Also, I was in a band called Wishful Thinking, and the drummer was David Garibaldi, very famous for being in Tower of Power, and so he schooled my ass pretty hard, and it was wonderful. So yeah, cool. So anything like that, any kind of connection. There's a drummer. There's a guy named Mike Shapiro, and we just did a ton of work together at one point and formed just such a great partnership. So I'm the worst at desert island kind of. Sorry.
No, that's cool, man.
I don't know, all of the above.
Right. I get it. Those are tough questions. No, because I was thinking I've said this story a couple of times. I'm just reluctant to repeat it, but somebody recently, a listener, sent in an email, and I think it was a guy, and he said, I love how your guests freely tell you about, dark times in their life, getting sober, divorce, death in the family. And then when you ask them what are their top 3 desert island discs, they squirm, like cannot give you an answer. So I always, when I hear that, I always think of that email the guy sent. How did you get involved in doing TV and film work? And also, are you playing on the soundtracks? Are you doing the sync, writing the music and licensing as well as playing, or what is?
No, anything that you might see on my resume is me. I just played on it.
Okay.
And it's not, relative to some people here, it's a drop in the bucket. I've done.
We've done some pretty big things, though.
Yeah. But as far as how I got involved, I was just remaining open, and and regarding professionalism and one's approach, just to remain, being positive is just so important. Sounds lame, but right? Just showing up on
not
time,
being a dick,
Yeah. And just kind of, obviously, you have to be delivering the goods every single time. It's just the kind of, it's a word of mouth business, even to this moment, even to this present moment.
Yes.
With the advent of social media and all that stuff, and the kind of the place we find ourselves in now, still you're not, word of mouth is super important. So probably, I had enough of a groundswell for people to take a chance and hire me. Different, particularly when that started, different time, and people would have to hire a studio, and they had a lot of money on the line. So it wasn't, if you ask someone, do you do any recording now? Everyone does recording, but I'm talking about what might differentiate that would be, yes, someone laid out money for all these musicians and engineer and studio, and it better happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Better throw it down. It wasn't an option to not have it happen. So through that approach, I think your name gets around and you get some calls. Yeah.
Let me ask you this:
Did I hit that? Did I answer that? I don't know.
Yeah, totally, absolutely, yeah. Where did you, have you always been so open-minded, and also I know you've got to have a great work ethic to be doing all these things. It's a referral gets you in the door, but the work ethic keeps that door open, so to speak. Yeah. Where did that come from for you, both the work ethic and the open-mindedness to music?
I think the work ethic, my folks, for sure. They're no doubt. I just have to give it up to my mom and dad for raising us in a home where everyone was all in. So I'm one of 5 kids, and
holy shit.
Yeah. Wow. So there wasn't a lot of time. Big Catholic family.
Yeah.
And we were all in. And then as we moved all around the country, I think, if that hadn't happened, my life would be so different. At the moment, it's one of those things where, out of this seemingly bad. So I moved 1 year. I went to 4 different high schools around the country, in LA and San Diego, and then Florida, and then back in northern Jersey. And that was, that's at the time it sucked.
That's really tough.
But every time you moved, you would, the way it worked in those days, all the kids, if you wanted to play, all the kids were in each area of the country were into completely different things. And so you just had to adapt. It was adapt, bro. if you want to have a chance to play and you want to kind of survive. And that was really helpful. And I would just say I've been really blessed career-wise. Well, living here in LA, there's so many different kinds of people. I mean, I love it because you just interface with people from all over the world. Sure. All the time, and eat food from all over the place, and it's pretty cool. But I've gotten to travel all over the place. I have 46. I don't know. I lost count, but a lot of countries, and many multiple times. And so I that's just kind of broadened my outlook and my horizons. And similarly in my teaching job, my part-time teaching job, I guess I should say. But we have a ton of international students, and so you're constantly dealing with different kind of mindsets, different worldviews, and it's so important to approach that in the right kind of way. if you want to help people and understand people. And
Yeah.
it's you and I were talking before the show a little bit, and you made a great comment. So the kind of the coming from the general idea of, well, what's so important about being right,
Yeah.
and what's so important about my worldview. It's it's incredibly important. It's your identity, and it's bound up with that. But I just don't I don't see much good coming from people being so fixed and rigid. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's not the nature of reality.
Yes.
Yeah. How's
That's
that?
it's
Yeah.
funny you say that, because it's one of the greatest gifts I think growing up in New York gave me, is like,
There you go.
y- y- I'm used to everybody, accents, colors, flavors, food, it's the same kind of deal, you don't have like one brand of people living in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I totally get that. Um, Low points. What were some of the low points or darker periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
Mm. Well, yeah, a good question. And so, complete transparency. Yeah, after I moved here, I was in a big downward spiral behind drugs and alcohol. So that I really bottomed out, and I like to do things right, so I did that right, and very thoroughly. And so I'm blessed, very blessed now. I've been clean and sober for a long time, and that profoundly altered my life. But that was definitely one of the lowest points. Yeah.
Um, Thanks for sharing that. One question for you about that, if you're comfortable. Um,
Hmm.
I have had so many people, listeners, uh, basically say how happy they are that this is like a platform here to talk about
Hmm.
this stuff, that we set up a getting sober list on our YouTube channel. It's our most popular.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
because
cool.
oh, it's great. I mean, anytime I can, like, if there's anything I can do, like, to help,
Hmm.
people said, hey man, I listened to this episode and it kept me clean another day. I mean, like, shit, man, if I can somehow like facilitate that, I'm, you know,
That's
I'm,
awesome.
I'm grateful. What would you say to somebody that is, if you're comfortable answering this, if you're not, it's totally cool.
Mhm.
To somebody that is struggling, like, what was, uh, maybe like, what can they expect that's going to be different, if you can give them like a little light to open up?
Hmm. Well, the first step is, the first step in the whole process is to fully concede to your innermost self that you are you have an addictive component to you. That you're an addict. That
Yeah,
you're an
you're a
alcoholic.
problem. You got a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But from that, I think you can look at it like a second chance at life, right? Right.
Oh
But
God,
really,
yeah.
it's a chance at a second life, and I think that's what you can look forward to, because whatever I would have thought of, or however I would have answered you before, and for some time after, I made that change. I think that whatever I would have imagined as the best thing for my life is just nowhere near how I would define that now, and what I've experienced as a result of having a spiritual component to my life.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's the central fact of my reality. Is that spiritual part,
Thank you,
and
man.
it just revolutionized my life, my thinking, everything. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think the toughest thing, again, I'm not a guy who got sober, as I mentioned, but I am a guy who's always struggled with asking for help. And I think that
Okay.
is a big thing from everybody I've talked to who has gotten sober.
Hmm.
So, and it's funny, once you ask for help, you realize it's nowhere near the burden
Right.
that you perceive. Like most people are really happy to help you if they can, in general, if you're not a dick, right? And so and I've talked to so many people who've gotten sober, and they've kind of said the same thing, that it was
Yeah, yeah, and that process. So I was just given so much, and as we say, for fun and for free, and to be able then though to kind of experience recovery and then to turn around and give it away.
Yeah.
That's the transactional part, and that's what's so important. That's what's so critically important
Yeah.
to keeping it going. And there's also a blowback benefit for yourself because
Yeah.
you're helping someone, and it changes your outlook on everything, but certainly on the way that you think about giving and helping people and your role in life. And this is just my take on this, but I don't know who I might who might be placed in my life for me to help.
Yeah.
And that's just not it's not up to us to in a way to decide. It's not up to you to. You can choose your partner in life, but for the rest of it, it's not. My job isn't to choose the people who to love, right? It's just to love.
Right.
That's the deal, I think.
Man, and even choosing your partner, depending upon the situations, like I don't think sometimes that's up to you either, man. It's like, why was somebody put in here for this reason, that this unlikely time and unlikely, I mean, there's millions of scenarios like that, man. So I agree with you.
Indeed.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And
Sure.
Congratulations on your sobriety for so long.
Oh, thanks. Well,
any things you've done during your career that were maybe at the time out of your comfort zone, musically or work wise, but you did them anyway, and they turned into pretty good breakthroughs for you?
Good question. I guess in a way there's a part of that that's a little hard to answer, because I always like jumping in the deep end and seeing what happens. So
getting out of your comfort zone is your comfort zone.
I like it because it's challenging. I get bored super easy. So I want new, and I want to you get schooled. So choosing to do a bunch of different things, if I'm playing, so I play, if I'm playing 4-string bass, swung low with a pick, rocking versus, jazz, some jazz improv gig or whatever. Those things, all if you're going to do them at the highest level, it's uncomfortable to switch from one thing to another thing to another thing, as opposed to I'm a touring rock guy or gal who plays, I play a P bass. This is my thing. That's it. And that's plenty. That's awesome. Right. But for me, it's a lot of moving between worlds and sounds and instruments, and all those things are, oh my God, how am I gonna make this happen? How am I gonna work this out? And so, I don't remember the second part of your question. No, I'm sorry.
No, it was just, was there anything you did that you got out of your comfort zone and turned out to be a breakthrough for you? But it sounds like everything that or a lot of things you've done have gotten out of your comfort zone, and they've all turned out to be breaks for you, because then you get to move into another out of your comfort zone again.
Yeah. And sometimes things don't work out, but back to the drawing board.
Yeah. It's funny. There's you just said sometimes things don't work out. There's a guy named, do you know who Junior Kimbrough is?
Who is that?
He's like he's dead, but he was in the 90s, he was like really 90s and 2000s. He's a Mississippi Delta blues guy. Like one of these guys, you'd walk around the Delta and you'd see him playing in a juke joint at night. Mm-hmm. And he's got this record. It's like the best titled record I've ever heard. It's called Most Things Don't Work Out. It's just funny. Like, what a funny name. Like, like he's a blues guy in the Mississippi Delta. Like he was probably a sharecropper, or his parents were probably slaves, God forbid. But I think that's probably the reality of it, and it's just such from that perspective, it's an apt title of a record. He's probably been a great player his whole life, gets discovered in the last 10 years of his life, whatever. But anyway, you just said something about working out. Just reminded me.
I love that.
Hey, anybody that influences your playing that people might be surprised to hear?
Well, so first, just disclaimer that I'm interested in anybody that can throw it down. So I'm all ears for as far as that goes. My first a big influence on me was Chris Squire.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
Like super big influence, and there's so many.
Yeah, because you're a prog guy. Did you you ever get to play with him?
Well, no, he was a bass player, right? But
I know, but be on something.
No, I never met him or anything like that. But I was he was a major influence, and let's see, I mean, Tony Levin, yeah. Of older school guys, I don't know if that would surprise people or not. Same haircut, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Craig. And gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm so into Anthony Jackson for sure. So that Anthony Jackson's work on those Eyewitness records, Steve Conn records from I think probably the early '90s was when those were done.
Mm-hmm.
But that's utterly spectacular bass playing. But I'm into I mean, I'm very influenced by I love hearing guys that are around now. I like hearing Tim LaFave.
Okay.
I mean, obviously everyone loves Pino Palladino. I love Pino Palladino.
Yeah.
They just had the 20th anniversary of that Voodoo record, and I remember that hitting, and I remember like being overwhelmed by what that was all about. There's a great video, if you haven't seen it, where Questlove is just recently came, but he's talking about how they recorded that stuff and how they thought about it. And then it took a while too. Which is kind of cool, because that record dropped and it was kind of like, oh, what are they doing at the time? And it was kind of neat to hear him explain that it happened over time. Like they worked towards it, and it's still magical, but not kind of just magic. Just we'll just do this. They worked it out,
And what's that video? I look up Questlove and Voodoo.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw it. Someone just posted it on Instagram, but it was just killer. And and I'm into I'm from my job at the school. I've had 40 or 50 master classes with just amazing bass players of every kind. So I just Hadrian just came through. Who else? Reggie Hamilton is another guy. And everyone has a different take, and so they all inspire me.
That's cool.
Yeah, they all influence me. Yeah, sure.
Reggie Hamilton's the best, man. I like that guy. Tell me, do you remember the first record you bought? Like, where were you in the pecking order of your family? You the oldest, middle?
I'm the oldest, yeah.
Oh, so you were the guy buying all the records.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably that I bought. I don't
Don't remember.
But I remember attaching to Beatles stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I just listened a ton to the radio growing up. So I did, I had no way to know, we didn't know, but so I heard a ton of those kind of the regional rhythm section guys, in terms of non-soloistic, non-jazz playing, but James Jamerson, right, and then David Hood and the New York guys and the LA Carol Kay and all those folks in LA and the Philadelphia guys. Yeah, so all that regional stuff that you heard on records on the radio really influenced me a lot.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't conscious. Yeah, Joe Osborne, right?
Right. Hey man, I don't know if this question is for you. If it's not, totally cool. It's top Desert Island discs, top 3.
Oh God.
Just for now, like literally right now.
Just for now, it's so funny. I see all this stuff happening on social and people calling out. I'm just, some people have like invited me to do it, I just don't even respond because
To do
I
like
just don't.
pop albums? Oh, I don't either.
Yeah. I just who the hell knows?
It's annoying. I know. That's annoying.
I don't
Very
know,
annoying.
man. So some things that were very influential to me are some of the early Yes stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So Fragile, Close to the Edge. I love all the Miles stuff. Bitches Brew, huge. I know everyone has their favorite Miles stuff, but Miles Smiles for some reason because it's so ethereal and hard to define is big. Keith Jarrett, The Belonging Quartet. I love all his stuff, but I don't know, it just depends on the style. I mean, it's just get into styles. I could just go on and on.
Yeah.
Brazilian stuff and all this hip hop stuff and yeah. So I'm not your guy for that. I don't want to go to a desert island. So there you go.
No, I hear it. Well, some guys take it really literal. They're like, well, if I actually was on a desert island, I'm like, wow, that's the next level shit. I don't say anything because you could take it however you want, but
Right.
I would just be like, oh, my 3 favorite records are, well, if I'm on a desert island, I love that one, but I would need this. I'm like, holy shit. That's
how am I going to plug in the record player on a desert island?
That's an analytical motherfucker. Yeah. I'm not that deep. Man, tough question. Most important things you've learned about yourself?
Wow, good question. Can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, things like, what have you learned about yourself that like has helped define you or maybe your outlook when you make decisions? Like for me, one of the things I've learned really important to me over the last 10 years, right, is that if I'm going to make decisions, my first question is, what's the least stressful option? Because I've learned if there's stress in my life, so be it, but I'm opting out of that. Like if there's stress in my life, it's got to be from other shit. I'm not making my own stress anymore.
Okay. I think that, and this just comes from all my training in recovery and life experience, but acceptance accepting all reality exactly as it is just so key, and releasing the need to control or judge is really, really important. So this has a major role in my personal life, my professional life, right? Just accepting circumstances as they are, and people as they are, and as we find them, and also, particularly influenced by my friend John Daversa, just in accepting musical experiences as you find them. So one of the hardest things to do for me is to kind of come from somewhere where there's like the time and the groove and it's just so phenomenal, and then you go to another situation where that's not the criteria or the aesthetic. Maybe we're playing jazz and maybe the time moves around, but the ideas are brilliant and the communication is brilliant. And so I don't try to transpose or drag over from one situation a criteria or an aesthetic or a judgment that shouldn't be there. That makes me miserable. I wind up making the people around me miserable. And so I've learned slowly, but over time, to release those things and to just embrace it where it is, because I kind of back to what we were talking about earlier, but that is the nature of our experience here.
Right.
And as human beings, I think we want to fix things in time and space, and that is not at all the nature of our reality.
It's interesting that you said that, because when I started becoming less willful, it was literally like a 1 million, and just accepting, whatever the universe or God or whatever somebody wants to call it for them gives you. I became like a 1 million pound weight lifted off my shoulder. I mean, it was almost like like being reborn. It was like that liberating, you know? So I totally get that, man.
That's very, very well said.
Another tough question, man. What makes you happy?
Oh, well,
I wish I had
oh,
snapped that picture.
oh, you can.
Go back.
All kinds of things. Well, family and and friends. I have a lot of really great friends for which I am really grateful. Um, um, Great music. I got to be making music. That's
Yeah.
just, we'll see where Corona takes us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my zone. That's some of the best of whatever it is that I am.
Right on, man.
And I like doing, so I'm kind of extroverted in some ways and introverted in other ways. Yeah, so I swim every day. I'm a lifelong swimmer, distance swimmer. And I do some other things, but
what other hobbies you got? What other hobbies or interests do you have?
I love activities like that, so yeah, I read a lot, all kinds of stuff.
You're in good shape. I'll tell everybody, if you're listening to this and not watching it on YouTube, this dude is in awesome shape. So whatever he's saying here, he's underplaying it. He puts time and effort into himself, like taking care of himself. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I love vegetables.
Right. No, that's great.
I love movement. I love movement. And so, yeah. And I love the water.
Yeah.
So my ideal vacation is to go somewhere where I can swim like most of the time.
Yeah.
Sounds funny that some people not.
No, it sounds great. No, you're supposed to go on vacation, do shit you like.
Yeah. I love cooking. I like to cook.
Number one hobby of musicians.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
By a long shot.
I make a killer pesto, just saying.
There you go. Right on, man. That's cool. You have any non-musical superpowers?
Define superpower.
Something that you excel at that is, different, that's outside of the scope of music, or some, special gift you have outside of music.
I don't think so. It's all kind of bound up together, I never thought of it that way. Oh, can I get back to you on that? Maybe
maybe you have a superpower and you're gonna go home.
Who knows? Honey, sometimes it's better not to know anyway. So
no, you can ask your wife, honey, do I have a superpower?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. She'll say, yeah, sure. Take out the garbage, rock star.
You mentioned you traveled all over the world. What's your favorite place you traveled?
Oh man, I love being immersed in other cultures, and but I probably one of my all-time favorite trips. I took one of my sisters was in the Peace Corps, and she was in Senegal. So I went with my son. In between his junior and senior year, we went to Africa, and I had been there before, but this was. We rocked Senegal and kind of native style. She showed us like the inside scoop, and then we went over to Kenya, and had that whole experience. Very, very different in all ways, and that was probably those two. That whole trip was probably one of the most memorable of my entire life. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was just such a deep dive and just so important. It's I would say just invaluable to have the experience of being like not the majority anything. So So to be the only just to speak of race, so to be the only white person for miles. Yeah. Really great to not be able to speak to where English is not the dominant language. Do you speak Wolof or French if you're in Senegal, for example? All that kind of stuff is enriching, and so that was one of my top ones. But yeah, I don't know. I could go on about that forever because.
You know, I went on a trip with my older son, and then I went on a smaller trip with my younger son. I have not been away alone with my daughter because I don't know if anybody would come back alive. But the two, man, that was just being alone away from your environment with your kid is really like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's great, and you get to, there's the varnish comes off, and there you are,
Well, it's
and
just a great
that's the thing about
memory.
traveling. You're making a memory. That's the thing about traveling. So it's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
As well, in terms of how you are, and working out with people, working out, and we're in this case working out with your kid.
Yeah. Very cool, man. Two more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you regret not doing?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think I that's a great question. I regret. You say it. I regret any. It's not a taking an action or a decision, but I regret any time spent worrying about anything. It's just a complete waste of time, and it takes you out of the present moment, right? I regret anything that has taken me away from being present in the day that I'm living in, right? So this kind of future casting or looking back to what could have, should have, or what I could have, should have, didn't. Those things are of no value.
Zero.
At all.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, I mean, we need to learn from our mistakes and progress and move forward. But I would say it's around that.
Good for you. So time is valuable to you, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because
but what are you going to do with your one and only life? And,
yeah.
Everyone's squandered a little time, and that's not good. The world needs us, right? To be present, to be aware, to be conscious, to be woke. And to be giving. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, worrying is a really waste of time. It's funny. My wife is a bit of a worrier, and I'm not. And sometimes she'll say to me, she'll get angry with me. She goes, "I can't understand why you're not worried." And I just look at her like, say that out loud again to yourself, and process that on your own, just independently of me, man. Because most people be like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're not worried. I feel reassuring." She's like, and she's wonderful. I'm not picking on her at all, but it's just she's a worrier, so it's totally different. And I'm like, no, I'm done. So I gave up that a while ago.
Yeah. And everyone's different. Some people are wired more toward in that direction. It's not, it's a.
Oh yeah, it's totally. But I quit.
I'm stating the obvious. I realize, but
I quit that, man. Last question, Jerry, and thank you for everything. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years? This is a tough one. And how much of that change has been intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Biggest, I think back to the acceptance piece. I think that I'm just accepting life on life's terms, right? In a different, I'm just kind of there. And that's a big difference. And anytime I don't, or I slip back into the old ways, you're swimming upstream. So that's been a profound change for me, to really put that on and wear it. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
I would say, I think that, I also part of my life is teaching, and I run the bass department at Los Angeles College of Music.
Yeah, man, talk about that, because we didn't spend all the time on that.
Oh yeah, well, it's in Pasadena, and I just started out teaching. I had a friend who was involved with the school when it first started, and he said, "Do you want to teach?" And I was like, yeah, "Okay." When I was a kid, we used to hear, those who can't do teach, right?
Right.
And so I was kind of, that's an very old model.
But it's
right?
also true for a lot of people. It's not true in your case.
Yeah, well, I think things have really, really changed, and regarding that, and so I just kind of kept not getting fired, as I like to say, and learning from the people around me, and I have some, today I would say I have some really amazing colleagues who every time I'm with them, I learn something, and it changes me, and so blessed to be involved with teaching people, with college age people, and really the age range could be 18 or 19 all the way to 30. Because we have some people who are passionate about music and do other things, and then come to study. And I think that interacting with people, so as it's generationally different, their whole life experience is quite different. Keeps an openness to the process, keeps me wondering and questioning, and also I think that a change has occurred in how I view life in general, in terms of about learning, about helping people. I feel like I have been so. I mean, for a guy,
you're self-taught, man.
I mean, for a guy who went to a shop and just bought a bass and played bass because the other guy was better on guitar, I feel extraordinarily fortunate and blessed to have had all these experiences, and to be able to give back, to be able to help guide people, to put together a staff of guys who I think are just amazing. They have an amazing bass staff that are just an honor. It's an honor to work alongside of them. So maybe 10 years ago I wouldn't have verbalized it in that way. So that's just a change in my consciousness, and I'm grateful for it. I'm really grateful for it. And along the way I found out that I can do different things. I could administrate some stuff, and oversee some things, and create some kind of a vision for where folks are going. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And again, I think the part about you being a self-taught musician, and now you're the chairman of the bass department, speaks. No, seriously, man, that speaks a lot to. It speaks a lot to your ability to be disciplined, to understand, to work well with others, and to be a great freaking player and communicate well as far as helping other people, man. So
thanks.
feather in your cap for sure, man. Yeah, you can't not look at that. That's pretty.
Funny.
And also, man, the American dream to, quote unquote, and it's hard to feel like that in this coronavirus that anybody has dreams, but man, that's anything is possible, man. You just, work a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let me tell people where they could find you online. If anybody wants to connect with Jerry, it's Jerry Watts, Watts, and Jerry with a J, Jerry, wattsjr.com.
Exactly.
JerryWattsJr.com if you want to connect with him about working together or anything else that we talked about. Also, he is on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all under Jerry Watts Jr. And man, I will look forward to some of these projects that you're working on, matriculated, and hopefully I'll get to see you play sometime. That would be awesome.
Oh, that would be great. I look forward to hanging in person.
Yeah, man, for sure. Hang on one second. Let me wrap up. Anything else that you want to talk about that I didn't talk about? Or anything else you want to mention?
No, I do want to just say thank you to you for reaching out. And I've done a lot of these. I've done a lot of interviews, but this is I think this is my favorite one. This is really,
thank you, man.
It's really a beautiful time. No, real.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, man.
No, I'm laughing because of me. I have a hard time taking compliments. I'm still working on that. That's on my to-do list. So thank you very much. That's my way of deflecting. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome, man.
This is remarkable. I mean, over 700 interviews.
Yeah, pretty close to 700.
That's so inspiring. Your whole story is inspiring. So thank you.
It's just it's been a great thing for me to. I mean, like I feel I've found my tribe, man. I get along.
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, like, even like when guys come to town and, we'll go out afterwards. My wife will, we'll go to the concert and we'll hang out afterwards. And she's She said, man, all these guys are really cool. I'm like, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're, musicians are just wonderful people, man. They're very open, they're very kind for the most part. That's like, man, who the hell doesn't want to be around open, kind people? That's like, what more do you want out of somebody, really? I mean, seriously, like open and kind, like what else are you looking for, man? Get online if you're not finding it, right? So,
Right.
And you're one of them. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, man.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on your social media channels. Check out Jerry Watts, and he's a fantastic bass player. Also, look at some of the projects he's been on. John Daversa, I'm sorry I called you Josh, but John Daversa is a guy he's played with a lot. It's a really cool project, and he's very and Jerry is really proud of it. And also check out Dan Rosenboom. His new, what's that new record?
Hey, I'll say it. Absurd in the Anthropocene.
Yeah, absurd.
Roll off the tongue, I know, but
no, it's cool. Just look up Dan Rosenboom Absurd, and I think you'll get halfway there on Google, and let Google do the rest. Is there any particular John Daversa record that you'd recommend direct people to the first time out?
So there's 3 big band records. So the first one is Junk Wagon, and then the second one is Kaleidoscope Eyes, which is a Beatles reimagined, and the most recent one was American Dreamers, awesome. Which is the one that won the Grammys, which is cool. It was interesting. He invited all these dreamers from across the country to participate, and so there's probably like 50 people that are here illegally, right? And
wow.
all the music is kind of Americana or American themed. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of get the level of, you kind of have to hear it to kind of hear what level of musician John is.
And so he invited all these people here to contribute to the record that are all illegal aliens. Wow.
Yeah. So he's a rapper. A lot of people who are not illegal, people who are typically born here and then have or find themselves in that issue. Their parents came and were,
right. Wow.
But there's the rapper. There's instrumentalists. There's singers. It's cool. It's really cool. And his small group records are also great. There's one we did with Bob Mincer. Do you know Bob? Maybe
no.
Your jazz folks will know
Bob Mincer.
And that's worth hearing. It's called Wobbly Dance Flower.
How do you remember all these weird names?
Yeah, because they're so weird.
Yeah, I get. You have a great memory.
As opposed to rocking in the free world.
Yeah. Hey man, eat your vegetables and have a memory like this. That's my takeaway. I'm going to munch on some kale. Listen, I hate kale. Actually, broccoli. I love vegetables, to be honest with you. I eat a ton of them. So anyway, we'll talk about our diets on the next Jerry Watts. And man, thank you again. I appreciate it. Check out jerrywattsjr.com and check out some of the projects he just mentioned. And he's a really cool guy, extremely talented. This guy's been a first call A-list guy for many, many years. And that's saying a lot in LA. So he's somebody that's worth checking out. I would really encourage you to look at the Dan Rosenboom and the John Daversa projects he's on. And most important, especially nowadays, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Mm-hmm. Be nice, go play your guitar or your bass and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. Jerry, take care.